Hi, Leah Foster, my guest on Wife's a Bitch podcast. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank
you so much for having me.
Thank you
Go
for
ahead.
being here.
You said to make myself comfortable.
Absolutely, and don't even hesitate to make yourself comfortable in my house. I want you to know I never met you until a few minutes ago, but you're as friendly as could be and as warm as could be. Just throw it. You can bring this closer to you.
You'll have to say that.
Very friendly. Say anything actually. I would tell you if you were a bitch or not.
You know what?
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are, but right now,
No, I'm actually not. But
very
you probably would. You probably would because I actually watched some of your stuff before I got on here, and I see that you are true to your. In Yiddish, we say, well, it's actually Hebrew, but we say "Shmoy Kain He," which means, and so is his name.
Oh.
And so, Aaron, life's a bee. I'm in the right.
Well, I have to say we are from similar backgrounds, but not really. I am a Sephardic Jew, which is a Middle Eastern Jew. I'm married to an Ashkenazi Jew who is European. That is really feels like it. And 30 years ago, that wouldn't have been taboo. But he's a European Jew, and his mother speaks to me in Yiddish a little bit, and I'm like some words, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm an Arab.
Say that again for the camera. That should be your clip.
Yeah. Yeah, but she was like, "Are you even Jewish?" You know, because I didn't understand any Yiddish, and I did go to Flatbush Yeshiva, which was also an Ashkenazi based
in our days,
right? But it was Ashkenazi based, and then I moved to Magen David Yeshiva, and that was all Sephardic, and I had to switch all of my prayers from Ashkenazi. I still can't. And I don't. But they had it on a loudspeaker like it was a mosque.
So you'll say
every morning.
Baruch or Baruch?
I say Baruch.
Oh, Baruch.
Yeah, Baruch. But I don't go the hard Ashkenazi or Yiddish like that kind. But it's just, it's just enough to be Sephardicized, Middle Easternized. But, there were 2 classes of Middle Eastern Jews, and then the 3 classes were for Ashkenazi Jews. But anyway, I ended up moving schools, and they had a loudspeaker and with a chazan, which is a cantor, and he would, say out the prayers, and I was like, no, I can't learn it like this, and I would just do it. It sounded like a mosque. And my husband pointed that out. He's like, every time I go to your synagogue, it sounds like a mosque. I'm like, oh, because I grew up with Arabic music, and my grandmother's from Lebanon, and I was like, I love Arabic music. Yeah. But now my mom lives in Israel, and she has Israeli friends who are like, please don't speak Arabic. I don't really want to hear it. Yeah, because it's
interesting. But I love Arabic music too.
Right, but it does kind of
Middle Eastern.
It does kind of preserve that instead of the Hebrew, and you really want to have more Hebrew in your life because you're a Jew.
It's like Yiddish and German. There are people that when they hear Yiddish say that's very triggering. It reminds me of the German language.
Right, and there are Jews that still love to learn German. I had a friend that was living in Germany, and she's Jewish and very, very religious. She came back and she has her kids learning German, and I was like, why? But I get it because it's like still her,
revolution in a way. Well, Yiddish is like making a huge comeback in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished this 10-day run in New York City. I did a theater run. I did a show called The Entertainment, and I did it under the New Yiddish Rep. And I was shocked how many people come out for Yiddish theater. It's really cool. And it was eye-opening, and I love seeing how many people in New York still appreciate Yiddish.
I love that. I love that people are preserving whatever language it is that they love. I lived in Hawaii for 7 years. And
that's interesting.
I'm the black sheep of my family. But the locals...
Guess what?
The locals there love their language. They really want to keep that Hawaiian Polynesian feel. And, there is reverse racism out there. They don't like the white man. They just don't like us. But, there's a lot of military bases out there now. It is part of America.
I love that Victoria says whatever she wants. She just says the reverse racism thing, and she just looks at me like as if I'm going to respond to that. But I'm not looking to get canceled anymore. They already canceled me, so I'll look.
You want to talk about that? I saw you at the. I was introduced to your videos.
Here we go. Here we go.
I saw you. I was sitting in the front row at the Chosen Festival. There was a festival of
The front row, not the seat.
It was a comedy show in Brooklyn, Coney Island, and at the amphitheater. And you were on stage, and I recognized you from your videos. And you're saying you didn't feel like you did well there, but it reset you as a comedian, and you did better after that. And I do believe in those resets. But also that you were talking about your mother and how you didn't get along with her. Want to talk about it?
Okay, well, for those of you that don't know, I come from the ultra-Orthodox Hasidic community. I got married at a pretty young age. I had a 20-year-old. Where we were taught from a very young age that you need to get married and go into
Like that show, Orthodox?
very similar.
Really?
Similar. And it was depending on which parts of the community you come from. Some of my cousins met their chassan for 10 minutes, and then their parents would say, "L'chaim, you're engaged." Some met 3 dates, 6 dates, like depending on where you fell into the spectrum. We were considered more modern, and I did meet my husband. I don't remember how long, but it was weeks.
Oh, you had a few weeks.
Well, yeah. And then I had a 6-week engagement or like a 7.
And no touching?
No touching.
And chaperones?
So luckily, like I said, I was more modern. I was able to go on an actual date. I had many cousins that would have the shows, which they only met in the house.
Oh.
And the parents would be there the whole time or leave them alone for like a few minutes.
Your siblings?
I have 4 siblings, yeah. And some did the shows, some did dates, like different siblings did different things. So that was my background. So unfortunately, I made a decision, and it was my decision to change things in my life. I no longer wanted to be part of the ultra Orthodox community. I struggled because I didn't fit into the non-frum community and the OTD community, as they call it, mainly because I am faithful, and I still identify as a woman of faith. And if I had to put myself into a box, because I would be forced to, I would say I'm somewhere along the modern Orthodox spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, there was no voice for it. And when the community sort of like tells you you're no good in so many words, then you start acting no good. So I sort of said, "Oh, you want to see?"
Right.
And then I gave it to them. So they would say, "Look, oh, she's leaving to perform Goyish comedy." I would throw Goyish comedy in their face. And like, to me, that looked like using lewd language and making below the belt jokes. And look, obviously it's a part of the evolution of me, but looking back now, I obviously was not, as balanced as I am now, because I think a good comedian and the people that I look up to are genuinely funny. They craft jokes and they're clever, and you don't have to go for the curse words and the low blows. However, my mother did excommunicate me from my family and told me not to come to Shiva when she dies.
Oh my God. Wow.
So it was a very hard journey, and I hadn't spoken to my mother for a while, for years. And obviously, when I was on stage, I would make fun of it, because that's what comedian, at least for me, comedy is always a coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. So I turned it into a joke, but it was a bitter joke.
Right.
And it was a glib joke, and it's not the kind of joke that I would be proud of.
Okay.
But I stand by it. I said what I said, and I bombed terribly bad. I think there was like 5,000 people in the audience. I was the first time I performed for so many people. I performed for more at a time, and
so it wasn't like it was your first rodeo. It wasn't like your first.
No,
you were nervous.
Seasoned comedian, but boy, oh boy, did I bomb so bad. It was probably one of my worst performances, and it was great. So good.
It's a gift.
Shaking.
It's a gift.
I was like, what a terrible performance. I had actually just started seeing someone. I wasn't sure what we were at the time, but I was like so nervous for her to come see my comedy.
She's still with you?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was so disappointed because I was like, wow, she finally came out and that's the performance.
I know.
Like, ugh.
Exactly.
Ugh.
I know exactly. My daughter never saw me in anything, and then she came to New York from Hawaii. She lives in Hawaii. And she saw my performance, and I was very off that night. And she goes, "Mom, I mean,
Hi.
Why can't you be like that other comedian?
Well, that was mean.
Yeah, that's fine. She's mean, but
Well, I mean, with a mom like you.
yeah, no, I know she's way worse. But
Oh, you have a 20-year-old. Trust me.
yeah, no, I have a 23, 20 years, almost 20, and 24-year-old son.
Poo, poo, poo. And
Thank
she
you.
doesn't look a day over 80.
Thank you. 80. I'll take it. Um, so
You know,
you
shout out to your apartment, by the way, because
Thank you.
you guys don't see this. I've never filmed a podcast in someone's house. Actually, did I perform? Yes, Ray's podcast was in the house. But this is like an actual of New York City, like really cute apartment. It's a
Thank you.
shame you can't see it, but it's a vibe. Imagine this setup. That's all over the house. Just cooler. Like seriously.
I have merch all over my house.
Great house.
I make my husband buy it. No, but
She makes my husband buy it.
so you do characters, and now what is your whole goal now as far as where you want to go with your comedy? And you want to be in comedy, right? You wrote a book also. Do you have your book?
I do have my book. I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
We'll take it. We'll take
Yeah, yeah,
a break, but I do want to show it to you guys.
yeah.
And I actually just had this conversation with my girlfriend because I run a business. I run multiple businesses, but I'm the CEO of a company called Corporate Minute. We upscale businesses. We come into businesses, we take them from a couple $100,000 to like million, 10 million. And that's what I do for work. And that's what I've been doing for the last decade plus in healthcare and home care spaces. So my career is not in comedy. I had a career in comedy when I was in the solely from community. I was a high school teacher, but my big money and my career was comedy, performing. When I left that, I made a decision that I'm never going to come back and do this full time again.
Okay.
Because I never want to be in a position where I'm fully dependent on other people and the validation from other people to make it. Because I've been hurt multiple times and I've not fit into the box, and because of that, I've lost opportunities and family and friends. I don't want to have to lose anything anymore because I don't fit into a box. So I have a career, and the comedy and the performing is what I want to do.
Right.
It's on my dime.
Right.
So I get calls from clubs all the time. And this is something that might shock you guys.
Humble brag.
Okay. No, this might shock you. That when you get booked for a club on an average club night, you're making less than $100 for your show to show up. So that means if you're sharing the stage with 4 other people, you're getting anywhere between $50 and $125. I'm a
Sometimes it's
businesswoman.
$25.
Yeah, I'm a businesswoman. Like that's not. I wouldn't even take a phone call for that money.
Right.
You know, like I charge a lot for my time, and my
Yeah.
clients are like millionaires. So
Right.
for me, so it's bad maybe that I look at it that way, and I should look at it as an opportunity to get up and perform. But I don't, because I have had many opportunities. So at this point in my life, if I'm going to do something, it has to be something that's going to make me better at my art, or something that's going to make me a lot of money.
Right.
One or the other.
Right. Yeah, you do a theater show.
So the theater line was amazing because theater is also
That's
not
my
about
goal.
money.
That's my goal.
You want to do one woman?
Yeah, one woman or just a couple of comedians, and I'm on that show at a theater, fill up a theater, go on tour. That's what I'm at. That's my goal.
That sounds like a good
Sorry.
goal. Let's make it happen.
She's so cute.
Manifesting. Go watch Victoria everywhere.
Yeah. Do it now.
Yeah, do it. So that's yeah. So what's my goal? My goal is to enjoy what I do or to make a lot of money, one or the other.
Right.
And right now I'm enjoying it a lot.
Mm.
And I'm also blessed. Like I really get to make money off of what I do, which is
Right.
crazy in my book. And the theater run wasn't about money, but I mean, the New Yorker come out and the Forward and Big Press and and I had famous influencers and other comedians that I respect.
You did
Can watch it.
Yeah.
And it was a 75-minute show.
Wow.
It destroyed my life.
Wow.
In music and dance and comedy.
You have it on video?
I do.
Okay.
So it's going to be special. So I was in love with it. I didn't realize how much I love theater. I love that intimate connection that you make with the audience. And I think everyone who was there could say that, like, I really enjoyed myself up there. I loved it.
Oh, they could tell.
Loved it.
That the stage doesn't lie. I was a theater background, a singer. I was going to go the whole Broadway route, but I
So
ended up
you
doing
decided to
stand.
become a wife today?
No, I was a wife before that. No, actually after that. But I didn't do stand. I didn't pursue stand up comedy when I was single. I got married at almost 30. I was
An
a
alta caca people.
I was a virgin on my wedding night.
Thank you for that information.
Very, very rare. And that's probably why I was 30 when I was married.
Let's pause uncomfortably and let us sit in this moment. Perhaps in the background you should have.
No, but what happened was I ended up before that when I was dating, I was afraid to pursue comedy because I thought my only goal was to get married, and that was my parents' only goal. So I was like, if I do stand up comedy, there's no way a guy's gonna marry me, no way. So that was another strike. So I put it in the back of my mind. Never did.
I knew it worked out well. Yes, because I did that once.
Right. A muzzled husband. No, but what happened with me was I ended up 15 years into my marriage, I think. My husband said, you'd be really good at stand up. You should try it. I said, what? He had no idea I wanted to do it.
Wow.
No idea.
See, guys, that's the kind of partner you want.
Like, the ones that want you getting out of the house.
Oh, no, but
No.
partner, like,
No, yeah.
he brought something out of
Yeah,
you
he
that
did.
you've been repressing. And
Yeah, and he had no idea. No idea that that's what I wanted to do because I totally shut it out. And so I took a class, learned nothing. I went up on the graduation class, and for 250 people, I got them. And I didn't suck. I didn't suck.
I watched you. I think you're really good.
Thank
So
you. It was actually my first time. I was very comfortable on stage because I was theater, but it was my first time ever doing stand up comedy. And my husband wasn't not supportive of coming to see me. He was my only guy that I brought, by the way. They said bring six. I said, "Be crazy." I'm lucky I could bring my husband. He came. We had a big argument right beforehand, right when I got off the stage.
it's been even funnier.
Well, I was
Pain always
pissed.
makes you
Yeah, I was
funny.
pissed. So when I got off the stage, he's like, "Well, you didn't suck." He texted me. I'm like, "Could I have a hug?" Like, no, he doesn't give hugs. Like, no, this is hardcore. This is it. And then when I started doing it, I started really liking it and started getting better. Then I moved to Hawaii. Took 3 years off. Didn't do anything at all. Excuse me. I should have gone. Should have gone water. But
You want to get one?
yeah, soon.
All right. Let's
Okay,
pause.
and we're back. And we're back. So, what were we talking about?
You were saying that your husband fully supported you in becoming your husband. Which, by the way, in case you people want to know why I would say husband, it's because I grew up where men really, again, and this is very particular to the very, very Hasidic niche, not all Jews, just
Right.
so we're clear.
Yeah.
But when I grew up, they would say, like, I want to drive, but my husband doesn't like. So it became
Doesn't like
my
it.
husband.
Yeah.
Mustn't.
That's hilarious. Well, I thought it was muzzle. But anyway, um, you want to share?
Do we talk about my book? All right, guys. Here you go. This is the title of my book. It's called Club MIILFF. It stands for Mothers Interested in Launching Financial Freedom. I am very proud, actually, that the publisher is Spines. They're an Israeli publishing company, so I'm super grateful that I use them for everything, especially during these times. Like, I was so grateful that I could show support. So if you buy my book, you're not just supporting me, you're also supporting Spines, the publishing company. You can go to my website, clubmilf.com. It's a real website this time, MILFF. It stands for Mothers Interested in Launching Financial Freedom.
That's amazing.
It's not MILF. The reason why I chose this word, and I know that people are like, really, Leah? Like, I know, even when I went to open this business, like, the bank gave me a hard time with the name.
Really?
They asked me a lot of questions about it, MILF.
Oh, because
because you know what MILF really
I know
stands
what
for, right? So I feel like the word queer is a word that has been reclaimed so much. It used to be like this awful word. It was like, I'm queer. And I'm like, if you think about it, the word MILF has this very like derogatory, like people are like, he called me a MILF. And me, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you can look, but you can't touch. So I took the word MILF and like I turned it into Mothers Interested in Launching Financial Freedom. And I felt like, yeah, I am a MILF. You could definitely refer to me as a MILF.
Yeah.
So that's what the story, that's what gave me
I like
the
the
idea.
real word. I'd like to be that mother you'd like to fuck. But anyway.
Say Don McKellen.
I still got it.
You still got it.
What I would think to myself if that's what guys wanted. But
I do like fiction.
Mhm.
So I grew up in a very facetious, but my parents were sort of like teetering on the edge. My mother used to hide Danielle Steele books in her, and so when I was younger, I would sneak them. So if you've ever read a Danielle Steele book, and you know those like salacious
Oh,
scenes,
sure.
okay. So I have a couple of those in this book, but the book really is about a woman named Leah who's in her mid-40s. Leah Hart is her name. My maiden name is Hartstein. And I still go by Leah. Leah Hartstein is my legal name, but Forster is my comedy name, but Hartstein is actually my name. So it's a woman named Leah Hart, and she enters this ridiculous club that she gets an exclusive invite to, and she signed up to a Groupon class and took a Poga class, which is a pole yoga class. And she meets these amazing MILFs, which are these amazing women that run like multi-billion-dollar companies. And all she has to do is come up with a good idea and they'll fully fund it. And she doesn't believe it's real. And she joins this like underground club and it's real. And she becomes like a super wealthy person. And in the process, a lot of the women in the MILFs start disappearing. Where they're going, what's going on. That's where the mystery takes place, and I can't give away the ending. But I did base the story off of people that I know, like Meryl Streep is Meryl Dunaway in the story. She's the CEO of Club MIILFF. And so in my dreams, she plays it in the movie. And I played Leah Hart. Exactly, manifesting. And there's this character called Natasha, who's named after Natasha Lyonne, who's super badass. And actually, you should read it. There's a character in here called Crystal Cream. She's very similar to you.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I imagine her to even look like you with your boobs.
No, I'll play with
Like,
that.
very, no, yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. So get it, familiarize yourself with it. So I can't tell you more. The one thing I will say about the book is that the entire book is put together through flashbacks of Leia's childhood, and it's done in yoga scenes. So it's like a healing journey, but it's also a story. And it's an audiovisual book. So it's not just a book that you can buy, but you can also buy audiovisual. So, which means that I'm not just talking it and you can download it as an Audible. It's chapter by chapter of me reading the book. You see me reading the book.
Yeah.
And there's graphics and AI and
Oh, I want
you'll see. So check out my Instagram
Sure.
at Leah Foster. I constantly post little teasers so you can see all the chapters, and it's a fully immersive experience. So it's like someone reading you a story.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I have a question about your personal life. When you were married,
Of course you do.
I think we all want to know. When you were married, how long after did you get divorced, and how did you get the courage? Because it's not easy in a community like yours to, especially without any supportive family, to get divorced, to get to that point. I know because I'm Sephardic Jew, and that's hard for us. Way harder for you guys.
You know how many times I talked about it and it still makes me like ick every time I talk about it?
Really?
Yeah. It's not like it's easier.
Maybe something I learned from it though.
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying, like, when you say it, it's just so straight out. I'm like, oh, wow.
Oh, well,
really
then we
went
got
to
that.
me.
Yeah.
So the short answer is I wasn't happy in my marriage for a very long time. And had I had the courage and the family and the support and the maturity, I would have done what a lot of people do when there's a relationship that isn't good for you. You walk away. I didn't have that courage. So it had nothing to do with me liking women or anything like that. I was not happy with my husband. And was my husband a bad guy? No, but we were not compatible. We did not belong together. On top of that, I had a lot of trauma from my childhood. And on top of that, I feel like I didn't get a chance to breathe in my life or figure out what I wanted, like a kid right away. And I was a top teacher and one of the most prestigious. I was a high school teacher in Beis Yaakov Durav Meir, which is like super right wing, a high school teacher in Lev Beis Yaakov, a high school teacher for many years in Mesoras Beis Yaakov, and I was heading their Chagiga, their Shabbaton, their productions. I was Mrs. Forster. I was like a regular, and my daughter, a child, was in a super right wing Beis Yaakov 18th Avenue. Like,
I know exactly.
really, really from.
Mhm.
And that was the problem. I was digging myself more into this hole. On top of that, I was becoming an entertainer. I was a household name in every firm house. Everyone knew who Leah Foster was. You had a DVD of mine. You had a CD of mine. I was in a Bina magazine interview. I was in a Jewish press interview. I was everywhere. I was being flown around the world and performing for thousands of religious women a night. Wow. And inside, I was unhappy. Very, very unhappy. I wasn't sure why. I thought maybe I need to do more, perform more. Like maybe I'm not utilizing my talent enough. Maybe I'm not a good enough Jew. Maybe I'm not from enough. Or actually, maybe I'm too from, and maybe now I need to experience other things. And, I wasn't sure what it was. And then I started Googling things. And yeah, I think what it boiled down to was realizing that if I wanted to be me and be happy, just being myself, then it would come at a very, very high price. There was no room in the community that I was in to continue being me or to start being. So I hid it and I kept a double life for a very long time. I would be teaching all day in high school, take off my shaitel, put on a pair of jeans, and meet my friends in a lesbian bar. I never had sex outside of my marriage.
How did you meet those friends that were in lesbian?
I started to go to support groups. I would Google. Originally, I'll get a kick out of this. I Googled girls who like girls. And of course, things popped up. Fact.
How old were you when you kind of knew that? You must have been young.
Well, I wasn't married yet when I had feelings for girls, if that's what you're asking. But I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
Meaning,
you never taught that.
Yeah, and I never had a feeling for a guy either. Right. We were not allowed to talk to boys either.
Yeah.
So my first interaction with men was going to be my husband.
Right.
So until then, it's not that we never spoke to men. It's just that that's how we're raised from a young age.
Right.
So your only purpose for meeting a boy is for marriage.
Right.
It's either to be a husband or a wife.
Right.
That's it.
100%.
And again, that's not all Jews. Again, tons of my friends had really amazing romantic experiences and are truly married to their best friends.
Okay.
And I'm super religious.
Yeah, that happens.
So, that's very possible.
Right.
And then there are those like me that it wasn't a fit. But I'm not sure that it was on my husband or on my community.
Right.
I was always curious and different and out of the box. I was always full of chutzpah.
Right.
And then, yes, my family, unfortunately, was a product of Holocaust survivors on both ends. So that also adds a big element of stress because there's a terrible fear that both my grandparents had that we would assimilate with the Goyim.
Right.
So anything that was remotely Goyish was a no. For example, you would be Goyish in my eyes.
Right.
You're not covering your elbows.
Right.
You're wearing jeans.
Right.
Even though you're fully Jewish,
yeah.
very faithful, and a believer in God.
I couldn't even ask for directions in my car to a Hasidic guy in Brooklyn. I remember asking, I was lost. They ignored me.
Which is interesting because, again,
I know
my father would 100%.
Right.
There are directions. My father was astronomer.
He's the exception.
And he's not the exception, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, my Hasidic friends and the Hasidic people that I've come across, if anyone would stop them and ask them for directions, they would give it. But unfortunately, you encountered someone like that was rude or whatever. And that's what I always wonder. Is it the community that's doing it? And I believe, this is, again, my personal opinion, I believe people are people.
Right.
And then they use things or abuse things. So I feel like my mother, for example, was a broken person. Not a bad person, a broken person. And she used different things to shame me. First, it was me being fat. Then it was me being too loud. Then it was me being too funny. No one's going to want to marry me because I played a funny part in the play and I'm a yenta. They're going to be like, oh, Lila, she's a funny part. No man is going to want me, right? And then it becomes a religion thing.
I had a grandmother like that.
Yeah. See? And then it becomes you're too modern. And then it becomes you're not this enough or you're not that enough. So I'm not sure that it's religion. Because I've met the most holy, kind rabbis.
Yes.
I believe it's the people that pervert.
I think it's fear. I think it's a lot of. I think it boils down. If I had to boil it down, it's fear. Because my grandmother, may she rest in peace. She was from Lebanon, very old school. Still spoke a lot of Arabic. She used to tell me, "Don't talk on a date. Don't talk. No man wants to hear your voice. No man wants to just get married." And she was disappointed in a lot of reason for a lot of reasons because of fear. And she thought that that's what you had to do, and that was her thing. But of course, it stings for the grandchild, and you see it later on. And she was also very superstitious. So now, if I look at it as an adult, I understand it as an adult. But thank God I got to adulthood. If I didn't, I never would have known that this woman was a total crazy bitch. Which is what I used to think.
Rest in peace, Bubby.
Right. And that's what I used to think of her at the time. But as an adult, I understand and I empathize of why she was like the way she was. I understand it. But those emotions don't really die because you're a child. And those children are, they're innocent for a reason. And, they are definitely associated with those emotions to the people that are putting them down.
Amen, Bubba. I have a personal problem in general, and it's like, I hate to use the word triggering, but because I came from the community that I came from, I'm so done with anyone trying to put me in any sort of box.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not making myself smaller for anyone ever again.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very personal thing to me. So,
get it.
when I left, unfortunately, there aren't many doors that are open for you. And they make sure to tell you that. Like,
Right.
no one's going to welcome you out there. It's very scary out there. And you believe it. You believe that it's so scary. Okay. So when I left, I immediately leaned on other people like me who also left the community.
Mm-hmm.
But I started to realize they might have left physically, but they were very much still stuck in that mentality, which is narrow-minded thinking. So now, instead of being narrow-minded against non-Jews, now they're narrow-minded against Hasidim. All Hasidim hurt them. All Hasidim are terrible. Right? Or they become narrow-minded against any religion. Because religion hurts, so now lots of them become very atheist.
Right.
Or they become narrow-minded against faith or family values, right? Or even, genders. And I know, again, I'm not making general statements, but I mean, I've noticed that when I had left and who I leaned on first, I would get called names a lot. Like I was told I'm not sex positive because a lot of my friends were polyamorous and in open relationships and sleeping with Crandall on Monday and Spritzel on Tuesday and Jeremy on Wednesday. Now, I think that's great. And I've had points in my life where I've experienced being single and not committing to anyone.
That's good too.
And I needed that.
Yes,
I needed to commit. And I dated people and told them I'm not committing. I will date other people as well. And I needed that. And ultimately, I think there's something very beautiful about monogamy. Maybe it's not for everyone, but I found that the people that I were around were shaming me for choosing monogamy. Telling me I'm not sex positive. So
that was something.
Yeah, so I've learned that I'm so done with putting me into a box and telling me I must be like this and I must think like this and I don't must anything.
Right.
And even now I'm very mindful and I know I'm going to get some shiz for this. But look, I mean, after October 7th, a lot of things changed for a lot of people. I don't know about you, I got massively shadow banned. It was scary. My Instagram, oh my God. Still, I'm like crawling down.
Shadow banned all the time for a lot of reasons, political and whatever else. My jokes, but go ahead. Constant.
It's fine. My own mother shadow banned me. But and it's hard. Social media is a beast.
Yeah.
But that I've noticed in the pro-Israel groups is a lot of them, they're sticky and clicky. Not all of them, but you know this as a comedian, right? They get very clicky and very right. So I'm done with that too. I don't believe when people ask me like, "Oh, you're friends with all these comedians?" I'm friends with real people. Like, yes, Modi is a comedian and he's famous and he's so good at what he does, and also he's a human being to me. He was good to me from day one. He's a tzaddik. It has nothing to do with him being famous, and so I support him because I would support him as a human.
Right.
And he supports me, I think, because he supports me as a human.
I genuinely love you.
So I feel that way about all these crews and groups and cliques.
Yeah,
and
I'm
so I'm
better
never
than
buying into this, like, I must belong to something,
Right.
and subscribe to something.
Right.
in any way.
I get it.
Question
I get it.
everything.
I get it. I get it. I used to be a vegan. First of all, I was a big meat eater, and then my husband wanted me to go vegetarian. I ended up going vegan with him, and the groups online were so mean and nasty, and I said I don't want to associate myself with you, and I took myself out of it, and then I wasn't vegan anymore, and that's how that people just kick you out, and they don't even by default. You want to get out. But also, I've noticed that in my book called, it's the reason why it's called Impress Yourself,
Impress
which
yourself.
I wrote originally for my children.
Victoria to see Arnstein.
Is that right? I my husband and I, when he wanted a divorce, I honestly, yeah, Club MIILFF. I'm not gonna be there.
When your husband wanted a divorce.
When he wanted a divorce, when I finally no idea what you're talking. But when I finally it just clicked one day. It just clicked. He was like, "Why don't you just go for somebody else?" And it just like turned me off like a light switch. And that's when I said, "I will never put anyone else first, ever. Not even my children will come first. I will come first."
10 out of 10.
I
I so appreciate that you said that. And I want to
And I
say
have
again,
never been happier, and everybody respects me more. And my husband came back to me, and my kids respect me more. You can't function. Your kids can't function if you can't function. That's first of all. And no one's going to be crying a river for you, even your children. You have to take care of yourself. You have to. Of course, I'm talking about like, am I dependent on my husband financially? Hell yeah, I am. But that's not the point. I know my skills.
and
I know my skills. Not great. So that's my thing. She has her thing. She's great at what she's doing. God bless you. I know where my weakness is, and that is to depend on my husband financially. But anyway,
go back to what you said about putting yourself first.
yes,
Moms, MILFs,
yeah,
if you're going to read my book or in general, this is for you. When you say, my only reason for existing is my child, or like, well, my kids come first. Like, I need you to stop that Jewish mom syndrome and that guilty mom syndrome.
yeah,
And I say this, and I know my child will be watching.
yeah,
And my child knows I'm a way better mother the day I put myself first.
100%.
And not just say it.
Yeah,
Not just go for a manicure.
right.
Really believe it.
Yeah, no,
And if it
true love.
comes down to,
Yeah,
and you have to choose one or the other. The other day, my child asked me to go somewhere with them, and it was gnawing at me in my like back of my head for a few days because I was like, I really don't want to go to this place. Don't want to be there. There's something about it that I just didn't want to be there. But my child really wanted to go with me. And I was so excited that my child wants to spend time with me.
right.
Anyone who has a 20-year-old and their kids are cool knows like
Yeah.
you're thrilled when your kids want to
Yeah.
spend some time with you.
Right.
So I was like, yay. But I really didn't want to go to this place. And I ended up saying yes. And then the day before, I FaceTimed my kid and I was like, hey, I really don't want to go. And my hands were shaking like this, And I realized there was no bet. My kid was like, Mom, if you don't want to go, you don't want to go.
Good.
It was me. I was going crazy. I will be perceived as a bad mother.
Right.
Because we have this thing where it's like we have to do everything perfectly. So what if you go on a vacation? So what if you get a babysitter? So what if you buy takeout? So the frick what?
Well, I think a good parent puts children in good hands. If they're not capable of doing it at that time, if they're too tired, it's just going to be worse for the child. So let them have the time that they need with somebody else and feel guilt free. I don't feel guilt ever anymore. Ever, ever. I don't feel guilty.
I still do.
I don't feel it. I don't feel guilty anymore because it's just a feeling that I reserve for things that I really need to put into place. And I just don't feel guilty. I will speak my mind. If I don't want to do something,
I have
I do
feelings
it.
of guilt and I work through them, but I definitely, the guilt does come up. It never starts me. Never.
It never
But it
comes.
comes up.
Of course it comes up because it's an emotion that we're used to, we're familiar with it. It's almost like it's a familiar spark.
I
It's
need
like
it.
depression.
Yeah.
It's like all that stuff. Yeah, it's like a pity party for one. You know what I mean? We all go through it, but I squash it down. I don't feel the need to explain myself half the time, especially to my children. I'll tell you this though, I do have one daughter out of three of my kids was okay with me getting divorced. She was actually encouraging it. She was putting me on JD.
Is this in the book?
Yeah.
Wow.
She was putting me.
I didn't read your book
believe
yet, but
I
I'm so
believe it
excited.
was, but if it wasn't, I'm telling you now that she was okay with it. She was like, you know what? If you need another man. You're not with the right guy. And she would actually made me feel better about it. But it did help. But knowing that one of my children out of three of them was okay with it.
I didn't read the book, but I'm so curious. What would you say was the core reason why you and your husband almost divorced?
I was nagging. I was a nag. Yeah, I didn't love myself enough. And I'll tell you, this is what I want to say about
Wow.
self-love.
You're
You know
such
how
a
people,
MILF.
you know how people,
Wow.
you know how people say, "Oh, love yourself, love everything about yourself." First of all, you don't love everything about anyone. So that's just bullshit. Stop saying you could love yourself fully. You can't. You can't, and you shouldn't. That's insane. But true love of yourself, and which is what I have now for myself, like real genuine love, which took me 50 years. I'm 54 now.
Oh, girl.
You know what it is? You know what true love is? Knowing that there's imperfections and knowing there's crappy parts about yourself and going, yeah, that does suck. Maybe I'll try to improve it if it really bothers me. But at least I know it's there and that I'm not 100% perfect. And that's the part that I love about myself, that I recognize that I'm not perfect and that I can't love everything about myself. Because I'll never love anything about even my husband, who I love, 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 even my kids, who I love. I don't love everything about my kids. It's insanity. Nobody's going to ever love everything about everybody. First of all, there's other people in your life that are going to serve you that one person can't do all that heavy lifting. I was talking about this on my last podcast with my friend Barry. Um, you got to find a friend that is going to talk about comedy. My husband hates comedy.
I just
Hates it.
so does my partner doesn't like comedy. It's like not into live shows and not into
Hates that.
But guess what? I love that about our relationship. I'm
Like
like
that's your separate
polarity.
thing.
Like you love your thing, I love my thing. That's good.
Yeah.
When couples get caught up in like we don't enjoy the same things or we don't like to do the same things, I'm like, so you're not meant to enjoy all the same things.
It's nice. Sometimes when I see it, I'm like, wow, he comes to all of your shows. I'll look at a woman. I'll be like, her husband comes to all the shows. You know what? Sometimes that's annoying too for me. Like, I'm glad my husband's not up my ass. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that I could have my thing, my freedom, my comedy friends.
Yeah.
Let's have his other friends that talk about, Bitcoin and finances
Oh
and
my gosh, it's in my boo. Major Bitcoin people.
oh yeah, he's looking. Do you see that sign in my window? Anyway, he makes
Wow.
put that up. There's a big B on my window.
To take a picture.
But he has this thing that he wants to talk about with his friends, and he's an athlete. He talks about athletic stuff with his athletic friends, and they go running, and that's their time together. And then you come back, and then you have your mutual thing together, and that's okay. And I like it actually. It makes me feel like I'm on vacation from myself or from him, and then I miss him. I like missing people. I don't like people. I put people in doses. I don't like people all day, every day. I don't even like me all day, every day. I need an escape from myself sometimes. I like a distraction. I like a good, walk in the park, get out of my head, listen to a podcast. Just keep taking these mini vacations with different people. Have variety. That's what I say is so
Yes,
important.
bubble
Some
up.
people are so confined to their bubble and their just comedy friends and they're just community and they're just Hollywood and they're just don't be just anything. If I could leave you with anything that's important in life, don't be just anything. Don't be married to one thing, one idea. Don't look up to a celebrity. They're gonna screw you later on also with their stupid views.
You know what? I'm glad I came on this podcast because you gave me such practical advice. Like I'm a guest on some podcasts and they're very deep and they're very like, you gave me practical advice, like things I could actually focus on. So thank you.
Oh my God, that's what I want to impart. That's what I really.
And I'm a big fan of not being just something because, as I said, like I don't even putting me in a box. When people ask me, "What's your sexuality? What's your religion? What's your politics?" I'm not just anything.
Yeah, you're just
You're a human with a human experience. I don't want to be judged for being too much of this or not
Right.
enough that.
Right.
I just am.
Right. Right. And look, I grew up in a small community also where a lot of judgments were made. I never had that. I never ever had that on people, you know? I never cared if somebody was gay or straight or I didn't care. I still don't care. But it's very, very odd for somebody to feel like that, you know, to not judge from a community that just judges all the time and gossips and gossips and gossips and the number one thing was to gossip, which is weird because in Judaism, the one thing that would kill anybody would be gossip. You know, so it's like the one thing that I think is the most important. I don't like to do. I don't like to do it. I don't like to gossip about people. I don't want to hear gossip about
It's
people.
amazing. I actually just read a book by this woman named Razy Fried called The Anatomy of a Yenta. And I thought it was a really great read because she talked a lot about, she comes from a very Heimish community, how she had to work on not being a Yenta and becoming an elegant person. Elegant people don't gossip.
I know. I saw something Ivanka Trump. Oh my God, she's so classy. I mean, say what you want about politics, whatever. Put everything aside. This woman is really classy, and she said that you know she converted to Judaism, and I really think the real way. And she said her soul can't afford to lower her standards and talk lashon hara, bad talk, gossip. And it's like she didn't grow up Jewish. She didn't, you know, have that Yiddishkeit. She didn't have that growing up, and yet she has it in her embedded in her soul, and she's teaching it, you know, and she's living by it by example. And I think that that's very, very classy. She's a classy woman. Her, Melania Trump, just classy human beings that are getting trashed all the time, but then like they're like ladies. My mother's very similar to that. My mother is very much a lady who's very distinguished and dignified and diplomatic. She's very diplomatic. You know, she'll listen. She'll be very fair. Like if I did something wrong, she'd be like, "Yeah, my daughter did something wrong." She imparted that on me. I'm very similar to that. My daughter does something wrong. She's in the wrong with a friend. I'll be the first to
And
tell
you're
you.
the same now with yourself. I see the way you said, oh, I was a nag. That's very
Oh
self-aware.
yeah, you have to be very, very honest with yourself. And in one of my podcasts, you'll see I talk about it. I say I really do blame myself for a lot of the reasons why. I'm not saying all of it. No way. My husband definitely lost his shit. You know, I needed to just take a break. But I know that I contributed to it. And I was like, well, wait, why would I do this with the next guy? Why don't I just take the same guy back? So I took the same guy back. And we have the best marriage now because we're more mature and because I realize what it is that's going to annoy him. And I'm like, you know what? Take a step back. Nobody wants to be annoyed. The new guy's not going to want to be annoyed either. So what are you doing? You know?
It's really cool.
And I think that when you learn this about yourself,
So what do you do
really
when you
admit it.
feel a nag coming on?
I stop myself. I go, would I want to hear this? Would
Mm.
I want to hear that? You know what also opened my eyes? My mother after she lost my father, she remarried, and he was an older man, and he was a little like you know he was a man that knew what he wanted. He still does. He's almost 100 years old. They live in Israel together, and but I lived with them for 7 years in New York City, and you know I was given a lesson. You know, he was very strong-minded, and they had an argument or something, and I remember telling my mother, like, "Mom, be quiet." You know, like I told her on this, like, Mom, you don't understand. He just wants to hear himself yelling right now. You're just making it worse. And she took note and she was like, oh my God, you're right. Like I'm doing it. And you have to really catch yourself. Sometimes you can't catch it yourself. Sometimes you have to show it to somebody. Nobody wants to hear that they're nagging. You know, it's like a child saying, I'm not tired. And they are tired. No one wants to ever really admit it. But if you learn to hold a mirror to yourself,
Yeah.
you'll improve your life and their life, and they'll love you for it. I read a book.
And can you also just show everyone your sexy boots? I mean, vibes.
Thanks. I read a book once that my my husband's grandmother sent to me when my husband and I were arguing and stuff. I was pregnant or something, and it was called The Surrendered Wife. I thought,
Yeah, I'm not reading that.
yeah,
Michigas.
yeah, I'm not reading this. And I started reading it. I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. She doesn't even have children. She only has dogs. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm not. And then I put it aside and I ended up reading it after I gave birth, like 2 years later, because my husband and I had a huge argument. And I read the book. I said, you know what? Let me see if there's anything in here. Well, I read the book and I tried this one exercise that my husband and I were in a huge fight. And I thought, there's no way this is going to work. And it was just one simple thing. It was if your husband says something and he asks you a question, he's lived long before you. He's done his own things before. He's made his own decisions before. Why are you making them for him? If he asks you a question, say, whatever you want. I said, yes, sure, sure, this worked. Well, guess what?
It worked, Bubba.
You know how I know it worked? My husband and I were in the worst fight. And then he asked me a question and I said, I don't know, whatever you want. And it was the first time I gave him
Autonomy.
yeah. And he looked at me and he said,
What happened?
wait, he didn't want to ruin a good thing. He was like very excited that I said that. So he said, 2 minutes later, he says, I think we should go on vacation together without the kids. And I was like, oh my God, it worked. It worked. That stupid line works. Sometimes he says to me, you should read that book again, honey. And I was like, he wasn't even supposed to know I read the book, but it really did work. And I don't know, for whatever reason, there's a lot of things that women just don't know that men want. And they just don't know it. And that could happen in a dynamic, I guess, with two women.
It
right?
doesn't matter. I think relationships and yeah, and I don't think it has maybe romantic relationships too, but I feel like once you heal and work on yourself, all your relationships improve. Full transparency, like I was not always a great friend, and there are some people that are no longer
In what
friends
way?
with. I wasn't honest with some of my friends about who I was, and definitely compartmentalized pieces of myself. I told my friends half truths, so that was a big
Well, out of fear, right?
yes. And then also because my life was going up in flames, I was a big drama addict. I would get very addicted to other people's drama
Right.
and other breakups and their things and I would gossip a lot, a lot. So I've been there, and I will say this. Now I've actually recently, I guess it's the season, it's New Year's season.
Yeah.
A couple of my friends that I'm no longer friends with have reached out to me recently to reconnect.
Wow.
More than one, like 3.
Nice.
Now, one of them, out of the blue, about 2 years ago, sent me a message and said, I need a break from our friendship.
Okay.
When she sent me that message, I cannot tell you the relief my body experienced.
Really?
I did not want to be friends with her for the longest time, but I never knew how to end the friendship. Like, I felt bad. We would hang out with other friends, mutual friends, and I felt like I always had to invite her. But her presence was not good. I don't like her husband. He's not a good person. He speaks very ill of other people. He makes fun of people. They create group chats like to gossip and just want to be a part of it
You
anymore.
like that energy.
Yeah. I didn't want to end the friendship. But when she ended it, I was like, I went on Facebook, I went on Instagram, I unfollowed her. I was like, I'm clean.
Right.
And she recently reached out, and I was like, don't even want to look at it. Don't even want to open that message. Like, it's so in the past. Now, do I hate her? Do I have bad feelings against her? Zero.
Right.
But I have no desire to open that door.
You've evolved.
And so, but I look back and I'm like,
that's okay.
Yeah, I wasn't a great friend to her either.
Right.
And I didn't appreciate the friendship enough to want to repair it. But I will say my friendships with everyone got so much better.
100% it will.
When I healed. You can be so honest with your friends, even if you have plans with your friends and you wake up that day and you're in a crap mood. A friend you're honest with, you can say, I actually can't get out of bed. Like, I'm feeling
Right.
You don't have to lie or make up
Right.
excuses
Right.
or whatever. It's
Right.
the truth. And they
Right.
love you just the same.
Right.
It's easy to show
And
up.
being flexible.
Yeah.
Like, I have a friend that she's like, she's a grandmother, God bless her, 14 kids. She's my age. And she got married young, whatever. She has a great marriage. She's also the one who told me not to get divorced. But anyway, she loves that if she can't make a plan, with me, she goes, Vicky, you're so flexible. That's what I love about you. I'm like, yeah, I'll do something else. I don't rely on your friends for everything. Your friendship or whatever it is. Just have your own life and get busy. That's what I also talk about in my book. Just do things that make you happy.
It sounds crazy.
Everything else is extra.
My friends rented a place upstate this weekend, so we went upstate. It was like around snow and up. It was so gorgeous. I woke up early in the morning and I did yoga, and then I went out with my toes and I went running in the snow. And I bet you my friends thought I was crazy, but I was like, what do I want to do right now? Run in the snow. Like, I don't need a partner for that, a girlfriend, a friend, a spouse, or nothing. It's fun I could have with myself, you know? So you're on point. Guys, check out our other podcast. If you got more of this good up your sleeve.
Thank you. All right, so I think we're gonna wrap up soon. I hope this everything is happening in here normally. I want to
Thank you for the red. It is Krata season, in case you weren't aware. So we're out here repping the ho-ho-hos.
The ho.
You know, I grew up, we spoke Yiddish, so that's my first language.
Yes.
So a lot of the words, like let's say a swing, we would call a wee-wee.
Oh.
Like, wer will gaan op de wee-wee, which means who wants to go on the swing. So when we would see a dog, we would say, look at the ho-ho.
Wow.
And my mother would yell like, Lila, come look at the ho-ho. And I'd be like, you know,
it's so funny because, you know, growing up in America and also having that as your language, it's like now you can incorporate both and you see the humor in it, you know? So funny because I can't really do Jewish humor because I'm a Middle Eastern Jew. Believe it or not, it doesn't translate that well because I don't do the Yiddish. You know what I mean? So like the real Jewish kind of humor.
But there is tradition. There's so much tradition.
There is
in your
tradition.
history, you know?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a lazy Jew, though, because my husband and I are both not Orthodox. And because of that, it became very, assimilated. I became much more assimilated in my humor. You know what I mean? So, but I do identify as Jewish, always.
Do your thing, boo.
And I'm so happy that I met you.
Me too.
And finally, and I'm so happy that I had you on this podcast.
Guys, check out Victoria's podcast.
And check out her podcast. What's your
check out my? I do not have a podcast, and I have no desire. No,
oh, really?
No desire to have a podcast. I get asked all the time. I did this thing called Trauma Talks.
Okay.
Where I had different professionals on for different episodes because over the years I've got so many messages from people. I'm stuck in my community. I don't know what to do. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm not a professional. When people reach out to me, I'm like, you don't want my experience. Like I suffered a lot,
Right.
But I did bring
You're an inspiration.
Yes, and I'm happy about that, but also I'm not a professional. So I did bring on Dr. Sarah Glass, and I brought on like different therapists, and I had the EMDR therapists I had on. So I'm happy to be a guest on someone else's podcast. I'm not interested in creating my own, but my book is out, Club MIILFF. My second book is coming out afterwards, also by an Israeli publishing company, and it's going to be the story of what happens after October 7th to 5 friends and how it shook their friendships. As someone who's in New York as a queer Jew, and all of a sudden so many of my queer spaces are now.
I remember the word queer was derogatory growing up, and now
I'm like queer for the record.
You don't like.
I just want to know, like, I don't like OTD either. I hate the word OTD.
What's OTD?
Off the derech. And I hate it because
I've never heard of it.
Well, it's like for frum people that don't know where I'm from. So I hate it because OTD got such a bad rap, and I feel the same way about queer. Like, I don't align with. I'm just a person.
Right.
I want to be everywhere. I want to be welcome in every space.
Right. And
you know, and newsflash, I'm not in certain queer spaces, specifically
really?
October 7th. Well, I used to go every year to this thing called the Dyke March. I loved it. It was a march that was like started by a bunch of lesbos, and I appreciated it.
She goes lesbos.
And I said that. And the ain't lots of lesbos. But then things changed. And this year the Dyke March was called Dykes Against Genocide. And it was like, you know, and I'm like, but I'm Jewish. Oh. And I don't understand what that sounds. It's not even a real. This isn't even a textbook genocide. Like, are we serious right now? There are countries in the world that are actually being genocided right now. Of course. You know, and if we're going to talk about a genocide, my grandparents on both sides, who my child is named after, Chaya and Belima, actually went through the Holocaust and watched their siblings being lined up. And like, I don't want to say it out of my mouth. Talk about a genocide. So, you know, that to me was like a very dystopian feeling. Like, where do I belong now?
Is she Orthodox, your daughter?
My child.
Yeah, your child.
And my child's faith is is a person of faith and spirituality, and I'm not sure if they would identify. They don't identify as Orthodox.
Okay. Because like, so did she grow up as Orthodox and then
Yes. We grew up super frum, and then at 10, I realized certain things, and I mean, I took years to come to that conclusion. But first, I changed my child's school to a more modern school. I tried to dress a little differently. I did it slowly, but my community and my family didn't take well to it. So I left, and then I was like angry. I wanted nothing to do with nothing. There are certain guidelines I set for myself that I never gave up, but I teetered a lot, and I had a lot of anger towards religion and faith. And unfortunately, because my child lost their aunts, uncles, cousins, relatives,
really?
there's a lot of children I stopped talking to.
Yeah.
Because they stopped talking to me and them too. So they lost
And the
everyone.
father?
Father, very good relationship.
good.
Dad is this good dad.
That's good.
We were both team my child.
That's
Are
great.
both team my
That's
child.
great. That's great to hear.
Yeah, but our faith and our Judaism is a journey. That's the answer. It's a journey, and I hope that I become even closer and more faithful.
Okay. All right. Well, Leah Foster.
You could check me out on Instagram at Leah Foster. That's where I mostly live, on the gram.
On the gram. I'm on Everybody Makes You Laugh on Instagram, and check out. I do questions and answers. I am also not a professional, but I do have experience. So if you have any questions and answers, that you want answered about relationships, I'm happy to answer on wifesofitch.com. And with that, you can get merch and my book. And thank you for being on.
Immerse yourself. Good day. But now let me sign it. Now that I know you, I can sign it.
Now.
And now
There's that song that goes on. And I'm going to also do the same. Thank you for joining, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye.